The price of housing is set by the marketplace. The question is whether this amount of money that people pay for the rental value of housing, which is mainly land value, is going to be taxed or is going to be paid out as interest. So people pay the same amount of their income for housing as they would with a higher tax system, but whatever the tax collector relinquishes is available to be paid out as interest to moneylenders, to the banks. And so people, outside buyers, are going to bid against each other to see who gets to buy a house or a commercial office building. And the winner is the person who is willing to pay the entire rental value after taxes to the banker. And the motto among commercial investors like Donald Trump, there are two mottos. The first motto is never use your own money, use other people's money, which means debt pyramid to the highest ratio that you can leverage. The second motto is that rent is for paying interest. A commercial buyer of a property, for instance, and if you understand commercial real estate, you'll understand the housing market much better. For commercial real estate, various bidders will calculate what the maximum rent that can be extracted is, and they will take that rent and they'll talk to the banker and say, I can afford to pay you so much money in interest. And the reason that the absentee owner is willing to pay this money to the banker instead of keep it is that they're after the capital gain. They want to buy a piece of property, let the rent carry the interest charge, carry the loan, and at the end of 3 years or 5 years, they will be able to flip the building to sell at a capital gain. And so the deal is that the banker gets the rental income, the investor, the absentee owner, gets the capital gain, which is really a land value gain, because what grows is not really the building. The building depreciates, or at least is supposed to depreciate. So if you look at the real estate market in America for the last 50 years, since World War II, say, between the end of World War II, 1945, and 2000, the real estate sector didn't pay any income tax at all. They were able to get a tax break of deducting the interest charge as if it were a cost of doing business rather than a financing choice. And they were willing to pretend that the building was depreciating so rapidly that the property they bought was actually losing value, where the reality was that property prices were accelerating steadily, and so the tax system was based on the fiction that property was losing its value, while actually it was increasing in price. And the theory was not only that interest would be tax deductible, not only that depreciation would be deductible, but when finally the property was sold at a capital gain, if the investor then would turn around and buy another property, there was no capital gains tax charge at the point of sale. You were allowed to keep increasing your real estate fortune ad infinitum as long as you kept plowing your gains back into yet more real estate. And so the result was an exponential growth curve, and essentially a growth in debt over a fixed supply of land. So, of course, land prices went up exponentially to reflect the amount of debt that rental value or flow could be capitalized at. Now, the economic fiction that underlies the Obama bailout is the same economic fiction that underlay the Bush bank bailout of $800 billion. The fiction is that the government is going to protect the taxpayer, and the taxpayer is going to buy $800 billion worth of toxic waste under the Bush program and another $2 trillion of toxic waste by setting up the bad bank under the Obama program. Now, the question is, will the taxpayer really be able to get back the money from this bailout? It can be answered quite simply. The private sector is not willing to buy this junk. These are junk bonds. These are junk mortgages that were capitalized into securities using junk mathematics. It's what Wall Street calls toxic waste. Is there any reason to believe that the taxpayer can buy toxic waste at a price set by the seller and by the Treasury that is staffed by representatives from Wall Street, the representatives from Wall Street who, by the way, managed the country into the bubble the first time around? Is there any reason to believe that the taxpayer can buy toxic waste that the banks are selling and somehow make a profit? First of all, the banks would keep the toxic waste if they thought they could make money on it. Secondly, private sector buyers would come in the marketplace and buy the toxic waste if they thought they could make money on it. They don't think they can. The government, the idea of the taxpayer somehow recovering the money is what you call selling to the greater fool. So this is a euphemism. The greater fool bailing out the wealthiest 10% of the population is called a situation where the taxpayer can recoup the money. That's just silly to believe that. And that is fraud, and no one on Wall Street believes it. If they did believe it, they'd buy it rather than let the government buy it.